Thank you for watching the Community Spotlight. I'm your host, Atia Harris. Today, we have an awesome guest in the studio. For all my aspiring actors and actresses out there, we have a guest that can give you information. She is an expert in that. So we're going to touch base a little bit on her life, her experiences, and how she became the person that she is today in the entertainer. And hopefully you will take away something great that you can add to your life. So my guest today is JAVETTA Milton. How are you, JAVETTA?
I am wonderful. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing fantastic and amazing.
Great, great.
So it's great to have you here on the show and on the program. I mean, you're traveling a lot. You're in a lot of functions and plays and things of that nature. Yes. So you paused for us today.
And you know what? I am so honored to be here. I haven't done a lot of work in the Queen City yet, but this right here is just a complete honor.
But mentioning the Queen City, you do have something coming up here in October, correct? A play, In-Laws from Hell?
I do. In-Laws
Yes.
from Hell. Yes, I do. And I am very excited about that script. I'm just extremely excited. And every opportunity that I have a chance to share my gift with everyone on the stage, I'm excited about. So Queen City, I'm coming to you guys. Get ready.
Okay. All right. So we kind of want to know where you started and how you got to where you are today. So let's kind of go backwards a little bit. You actually started in entertainment as a singer.
I did. I have been singing for about 25 years. I started with a singing group entitled Straight Up, which is 2 of my cousins and 2 of my sisters. It's 5 of us total. We've traveled all across the country as well.
Affair?
A family affair. And it was awesome. So I've been singing with them. We do praise and worship and gospel music. We write our own stuff and we produce our own stuff. So that in itself was exciting. But I was always on stage with a group of people, never by myself. So.
Okay, so what's the difference? I mean, how did it feel being on there with a group? I know you have all these people staring at you, hundreds or sometimes thousands. How do you cope with that?
Actually, you really don't see the people. When you're on stage, there are bright lights beaming down and you're not yourself. You're a completely different person. And so what you have to do is just go out there and play that part.
Okay, so you're saying that's acting too.
Right. With my singing, it's actually a ministry. We would pray before we went out, God, have your will. We want to have your way in the place, and we pray that souls will be saved and lives will be changed through the ministry that you've gifted us with. So we went out there and we ministered. That was the role that I was playing at that time.
So did you do original pieces?
We did, yes ma'am.
Okay, and maybe some other pieces?
And we did a few, when we were called to do praise and worship, we would do a few pieces that we thought the audience might know so that they could connect with us through familiarity. So.
Okay, so just interesting to know, how did you guys wind up touring around or going from place to place? Because oftentimes when you have a group, you started and then you might do your local church, and there's many people that do the local church and they stay in the local church. How did you wind up moving and traveling?
Networking. Even back in the late 80s and early 90s, we networked. We had our business cards and all of us were really young at that time. So after services, you know, they would have the quartets that they brought in from Virginia or Philadelphia. So we would give them our information. They saw that we were on fire for God and they wanted to bring us up. So that's kind of how, wherever we went, we would take the gospel and we would also take our information so that we could network with different people.
All right, so when you started doing that, moving and touring and entertaining, and now it's real in this business, did you imagine that you would transition to other levels?
Absolutely not. Let me tell you, singing with a group is completely different from being contracted out as an actor. When you're with a group, you have, I guess, a safety net. If you hit a wrong note, somebody is there to cover you. When you're on stage doing plays or even when you're doing film, you know, it's not hitting wrong notes. If you miss that line, somebody might be there to pick it up, but you've missed your line. You know, it's live, it's raw. The show has to go on.
So when you make a mistake, you just keep on moving?
Keep on moving.
And just hopefully someone catches us up and it flows.
Right. That's where rehearsal comes in. A lot of people see acting and they think that it's an easy business to get into. It's not easy. There are auditions, there are late night rehearsals. There's a lot of work and effort that you have to put into being an actor. So it's not just glitz and glamour. It's hard work.
So how did you transition from singing to acting?
Well, actually, it had nothing to do with my singing.
Really? Because I would think someone would say, hey, we have this play, it's a gospel play, you sing,
No.
come on over here.
I was horrified. A lady reached out to me in 2009 on Facebook by the name of Pachanda Dubose, and she said, I wrote this play and I have a part for you. And I said, I'm sorry, ma'am. I don't act. I don't. I'm sorry, you got the wrong one. But she's like, no, she's like, your face. She's like, you know, I feel like this part is for you. So I prayed about it, and at the time I was dealing with low self-esteem. Mm-hmm. And I said, you know what, maybe this might be the little boost that I need to build my self-esteem up. So
let's pause right there, because I think everybody deals with that, or majority of people from time to time, somewhere in their life, some issues come up, and this becomes a problem. Why were you having that issue?
Oh, a list of things. When I grew up, I was always taller than everybody else.
Supermodel, keep going.
Okay. I was lanky, I had full lips, I had my ears, they stuck out, and so I was picked on, which that's pretty normal, you know, for children to be picked on. But as I went on in life, I started to internalize what everybody was saying about me. And I subscribed to those things that they said about me, to the point where I was believing I was ugly, I wasn't going to do anything, I wasn't going to be anybody. And the funny thing about that is my parents, they had my back the whole time, but I didn't hear them. I heard them, but I didn't internalize it. I heard what my peers were saying, what my little cousins were saying, you know, and that's what I live my life by.
I think that's a lesson for all parents out there that's watching the program right now, because they say kids are raw and uncut and they can be tough, and you went through that experience. I think a lot of people actually went through that experience, so having your parents' support is definitely a great thing, but I think we need to do better as parents, monitoring who's around our kids, who they're playing with, what these kids are saying to your kid, and keep the lines of communication open with your child so that you can counteract some of this, because you can't get away from it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the crazy thing about it is I took that low self-esteem into my adulthood. A lot of people associate low self-esteem with youth, but I actually had a failed marriage. A lot of it had to deal with my insecurities. And I won't go into major detail, but it didn't work. And so that kind of was a punch to the gut for me as well. And so I'm sitting here, I was raised in the church, my self-esteem was shot. I dealt with depression. I had a 2-year-old and a 6-month-old. One was up at night, one was up during the daytime, and I cried every day. And
I'm smiling because I know that story.
Yes. So, you know, I got to the point where I was so completely broken. Like, my husband didn't want me. My kids are crying. I'm doing something wrong. I have to be doing something wrong. God, where are you? I know the Bible says he'll never leave you or forsake you, but I felt so alone. And I would draw the curtains in my apartment and I would just sit in darkness.
That's definitely a sign of depression, wanting to sit in darkness.
And one day I finally cried out. I'm like, God, if you have a plan for my life, let it be known. It's not about me anymore. Let it be about you. Whatever it is that I am called to do, lead me, show me what it is that I need to do, and I will do it wholeheartedly, and you will get the glory for it. And that's when that door opened up for me for acting. And I went through the rehearsals, I went through the character development, and I'm still kind of feeling like,
do you think that helped your self-esteem by learning? I mean, because you do go into different personalities. You know, they say actors and actresses are schizophrenic, you know.
I'm not going to claim that I'm schizophrenic, but I will say
so you go on a different, you know, so hey, I'm depressed. Let me switch to this mode.
Now, here's the thing for me. When I'm on stage, there's a healing process that takes place for me. There are some things that I have gone through that I live on stage. I might be telling somebody else's story, but me going through it.
So it's kind of therapy.
It's therapy. That's exactly what it is. And I've played characters from funny roles to true life women who've been molested and abused. And every time I get on stage, it's like a little piece of me is healing. And so I no longer see myself the way that they saw me. I see myself the way that God created me. I was beautifully and wonderfully made. And because nobody around me that criticized me created me, they really can't validate their points.
So I have a question. A lot of people that went through what you went through oftentimes contemplate suicide when it's that extreme. Did you have any support system to help you in that area to kind of tone down what you were going through?
I had my mom and my dad. My mom, I remember her coming to my house and opening up my blinds, and you know, she's encouraging me, she's speaking word into me. But I guess when you're at that point, you hear it, but you don't hear it. And I guess I'm very grateful for their support. But what it came down to was me deciding that I wanted to become a better me. It was me deciding that it's time for me to step out.
Because I know even with the kids, that's an extra stress. You got 2 young kids.
I have 2 young children.
And they're on 2 different sleep schedules. I know that would drive me crazy.
But you know what? I made it through.
Yes,
I made it. And if I could make it through that situation, anybody can make it through anything. You just have to keep the faith and know that there is sunshine on the other side of that storm.
What would you say to a person that is battling depression beyond what you just stated?
Well, you really don't have to walk in depression. It's a choice. You have to love yourself first. You have to realize that, you know, this is you. This is the one life that you've been given, and sitting at home crying and weeping and doing all that stuff is not living your life to the fullest. There is purpose. There's purpose for your life. There is purpose. You have to know that you were birthed into this earth for a reason. And I promise you, it was not to sit at home and cry about what's not going on. Get up and take charge of your life.
I think another lesson we can learn out of this, but it's hard to learn it as a child, and it's easier to learn it as an adult. You always hear that saying, there's life and death in the tongue, there's power in the tongue. And you know, you can cut people with your words, and it can last longer than you hitting somebody.
That's true.
You can hit them and they can be over that tomorrow, but if you say some words that they absorb and they actually believe, now you have really affected them on a long-term fashion. So I think constructive criticism is a great thing, but you have to be careful who you receive it from. You know, make sure you receive it from people that love you in love.
Right.
You know, but not just someone that's making a comment, because we all have issues.
That's true.
We all have flaws internally and externally.
Right.
And so, you know, I think it's hard to get a child to understand that. I actually deal with that with my daughters in their 6 and 7. They come home from school and they say, hey, this girl says she doesn't want to be my friend. She doesn't like me. And I say, so what? I'm your friend. And if she wants to be mean, let her be mean. But you know, you're this, you're great, you're this, you're that, and you're this. And does she pay your bills? And do she buy you clothes?
Right.
So why do you care? You know, so we do need to take more charge in that area as parents, you know.
Absolutely.
I think kids, again, are cruel, and to have something that manifests itself in someone that lasts for years, it happens to a lot of people.
It does. You would be surprised.
But you have to repel that.
Absolutely. I actually have a program called GEMS. It stands for Growing, Empowering, Mentoring, and Shaping the Youth of Today. And the purpose of that organization is to actually build self-esteem in minority youth through their participation in the performance arts. So I'll bring them in community centers, churches, what have you, and we'll do acting workshops, whatever it is that's in them to do. If they want to sing, if they want to rap, if they want to do poetry, whatever it is they want to do, we grow that craft in them, and then we give them a platform for them to actually express themselves.
I think that's great. I think that's definitely a self-esteem builder. Also kind of helps in the area of public speaking. If when you have to stand up in front of large crowds, and if you can get that while you're young, I mean, it's even more fantastic when you get older.
Absolutely.
All right, so now we're on the acting, we're on the therapy, we're on the healing. You got your first call. How was that performance?
Well, it was in front of a sold-out crowd at the Arts Council Theater in Winston-Salem.
What were you going through internally?
I was horrified. Like, I felt like I was going to throw up. And I was like, I'm fine. And I'm with experienced actors that have done this hundreds of times before.
Was you back there
I prayed. I was like, okay. And I had to sing in this play. Now, like I said, I had my safety net always with me straight up. So this is my first time going out and doing it by myself. I'm like, God, I cannot look like a fool. I have sold all these tickets.
Everybody has.
Yeah, so let your light shine.
Okay.
In me. The story that I told, I was hoping that there was somebody in the audience that could connect with that. And you always want to be believable. So it's not just reading lines. You actually have to become that character.
I mean, but how do you do that?
It's a process. It is a process.
Do you go back to memories or maybe someone you know that acts like that or an experience of the past?
Yes, I do. With that first play, I actually played a bitter baby mother. My boyfriend left me with this child
So
that I had to
similar
raise.
scenario.
Similar scenario. So I grabbed from that hurt and stuff that I had stored away, and I put it on the stage and I left it there. I left it there, but I didn't leave it there as JAVETTA. I left it there as Patrice. So.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that here this evening because this is the story of 5 million American women.
Indeed.
I mean,
yes.
the single mother thing is definitely on a rise. You know,
Right.
I think it was mainly in major cities, but it's everywhere now in high abundance. So, you know, it's a lot of women that are going through hurt and pain, and they can actually relate. So it's good to have relatable characters.
Right.
So when you start getting other opportunities, did you select? Were you picky, or did you just jump into anything?
At first, I jumped head first. I didn't care what it was. I got bit by that acting bug, and I wanted to be on stages and everything. And so. I dove in, but as I became seasoned, I realized you have to pick and choose what you can and cannot do. And it's not so much the storyline. At one point, I was doing 4 or 5 shows at one time, and your body gets burned out. You're memorizing all of these scripts, you're learning these lines, learning these characters. You're going to rehearsals 5 nights out of the week. You're traveling here on the weekends, but you have to keep your 9 to 5 Monday through Friday because your acting is not really supporting what you're doing right now. So I had all of that going on, and I felt my body kind of breaking down. So I had to be a little bit more wiser about it. There are opportunities out there. There will always be opportunities out there, but you have to be wise because there's only one you, and you have to take care of you.
So what do you look for now when someone says, hey, we want you to do this script, we want you to play this role? What ingredients need to be there? What's the formula?
I look at the script first to see if it is talking about anything. If there's a moral to the story, if I feel like people's lives can be changed or somebody can relate to the story, not just my character, then I will take the script if I have the time.
Okay, so what if someone asked you to play a prostitute? What would you do?
Oh, funny you should say that. My last show that I did was 2 weeks ago in Greensboro, which is my hometown, and it was titled Treasures in the Dark. It was based off of a book written by a young lady named Cheryl Highsaw. She's from Houston, Texas. So in this story, she was molested by some family members. She was molested by her mother's boyfriend.
That's a common story. Want to let everybody know out there, you better watch your kids.
Yes, she was prostituted out. She had kids. She was married multiple times. But her story, like you said, is one that it needs to be told to me because it happens more often than we're willing to speak about it, especially the molestation. And so for me, I was honored to take the role.
Yeah.
Now becoming that character was actually a real person. This was her life. And so I was on the phone with her almost every day. I was emailing her, I was inboxing her. First of all, checking on her because the process was really hard for her to have to sit and relive that on a stage. So I was making sure she would be strong enough to handle it, and I was taking little pieces of her life, little things like, how did you dress? Send me a picture of you when you were 13. How did you wear your hair? Tell me how you felt when this happened, because all of that emotion that she had, I wanted to take that onto myself and release it on stage.
What lessons do you think the audience got out of that? I mean, number one, we know you need to watch your kids, and there's really not enough people doing that. I think of not too long ago here in this area, it was a young, gorgeous girl. The mother's boyfriend beat this little girl. She was petite and gorgeous, you know, beautiful blonde curly hair. Next thing you know, she wound up deformed, and then she passed away. And so, I mean, there's a lot of people entrusting their kids with folk
Absolutely.
they should not be doing. And I want to emphasize that and stress that. Like, my daughters ask me for sleepovers all the time. I'm like, not in this day and age. We might need to talk about that some more.
Right.
And they're 6 and 7. But the thing about it is what did the audience get from that character, can you say?
Well, sure. They got the whole lesson about watch your kids. It's important. And she even says in the book, you need to watch your kids. Also, if there is something like that happening in the family, somebody needs to speak out.
Instead of covering it under the rug.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Families covered under the rug. Even if the victim speaks out about it, they want to know. We don't want to shame the family. Also, they got that no matter how dire the situation, you can overcome. You can overcome regardless of whatever it is that you're going through. There is a way of escape out of that situation. And
So what was the way of escape?
for her, she was sent to prison. She was sent to prison for 3 years. And during that time, she finally was like, God, if you're God, show yourself to me. What is it that I need to do? Because the way I'm living my life right now is not. And she had some crazy things happening to her. She got beat almost to the point of death. She was prostituted out night after night after night by a boyfriend who said he loved her. And you know, you do crazy things for love. She was strung out on drugs. She
That's a way of controlling somebody.
Absolutely. She was an alcoholic. She just went through so much stuff until the point where she broke.
Well, thank God she had a victory.
Thank God. Thank God. So people got to see that. And this stage play, unlike any other stage play I've been a part of, was extremely raw. Most stage plays touch on molestation. They might mention it in passing, but they don't want to sit on it. We sat on it. There was one scene, and I don't want to give it away because it's actually on tour now, but there was one scene that was so raw with her and her grandfather, and the audience was just, you could hear them. After the show, they were talking about the tears. Women that had been molested, that had never said anything.
Well, I think a lot of women have that story.
They do.
When you sit down and
They
really
do.
talk to them, I think a lot of women have a story like that. That's why
They
you have
do.
to watch them. And I think it's increasing among young males
It is.
as well now. Okay, so I think that's great. That's great. So the role that you are doing here in Charlotte, North Carolina, In-Laws from Hell, which that tickles me every time I hear the name. It's a whole bunch of people saying, yes, you're right, In-Laws from Hell. The role that you're doing here, can you tell us a little bit about that?
I can tell you a little bit. I play a salon shop owner, and I have the opportunity to interact with some very interesting characters, and the title of the actual play kind of speaks for the play. In-Laws from Hell. You deal with those. you deal with them now. I've never had to experience that, but I have friends that are just like, what am I going to do pulling hair? So for those people that can connect with having in-laws, of course, you know, they probably hadn't said anything, but they'll get to laugh and, you know, and yeah, that's right, for that night in October. So I'm extremely excited about that.
Can you talk to us about being a beauty pageant winner?
Sure.
What a self-esteem booster.
Absolutely. I never thought in a million years that I would win a beauty pageant, because
Well, you're gorgeous, so
oh,
I want to add
you. Oh, but at the time I didn't see myself like that. And when I was approached about entering into the pageant, my thought process was, I can go and my platform can be my organization, so I can get word out about gems. I can do it and it'll be good because I'll get more children to come in. I can build self-esteem. And I ended up boosting my self-esteem in the process. I ended up, of course, I was Miss Black Burlington USA 2013, and I ended up as first runner-up for Miss Black North Carolina USA. And so with that title, a lot of people look at it as just beauty, crown, and sash. But it gave me the opportunity, and it opened up so many doors for me to go into different places all across North Carolina to share my platform. So instead of just doing my workshops with McClainsville or Greensboro or Burlington, I got to go into other areas.
So just spreading a lot of healing with your testimony?
Spreading healing and letting young people know that you don't have to subscribe to what people are saying about you. Nobody created you that's saying these things.
I think that's a lesson for adults also.
Absolutely. I actually had the opportunity to speak with some young girls at a high school in Asheboro, North Carolina. And it was a Best Face Forward prom workshop. They were getting ready for prom. And so I shared my story of how it was for me growing up and how I transitioned into who I am today.
To the Swan?
I'll take that, okay. But how I transitioned, and I remember looking out and seeing the tears. Every little girl, every teenager, I'll say, that was getting ready for prom was in tears. They didn't think they were pretty. These were gorgeous young women. They didn't think they were pretty. They didn't think they were good enough. I had one girl tell me, I want to go to college, but I don't think I'm smart enough. Girl, do you know you can do all things through Christ who gives you strength?
All things are possible.
Everything is possible if you put yourself to it, but you can't go based off of what somebody else is saying to you. Like, girl, I had a lot of people say, JAVETTA, I went to school for elementary education. JAVETTA, you're supposed to be a teacher, girl. Acting? No, you good, you good. And then they saw me on stage and they were shut up. And so had I listened to what they said, I wouldn't be where I am right now.
Well, I'm glad that you shared everything that you've been going through from childhood to present, because there were so many life lessons that many people could take something away from to boost themselves and to contemplate on and to think about, you know? So we appreciate you so much for coming on the program, and just look forward to your performance here in this area in October.
I'm excited.
We thank you guys for watching the Community Spotlight. I'm your host, Tia Harris. Tune in next week, same time, same place.